Hello everyone. Welcome to the reading today. So today we are doing a reading around a message from your future self. So just to go into a little bit about this one, just before this reading, I decided to do a quick message from my future self, and it was very strange. I went and did a meditation. It was the guided meditation through YouTube's what is it called? Great Meditation. Great Meditation, and it was one of their more recent ones. It's actually probably the most newest one I've seen, so you'll be able to see it pretty early if you sort by newest. Anyway, Great Meditation's really good. Actually, great meditations, right? Actually, really nice meditations there. So they're about 10-15 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes a little bit more if you want it longer. So it's doable. Unless you're super busy, then you gotta do what you gotta do, right? However, it was nice. It was a nice connection with self, with whatever's to come. And I say it was confusing because I didn't really recognize a lot of the stuff in the future. It was positive and it was happy. And while I didn't get like the full description of what was to come, I got a feeling of calm, peace, and happiness. And so that's exactly what I wanted to bring through in a message through to you today, is a message from your future self. But it's not just like any future. This is a timeline or a projected future that you feel safe, secure, protected, successful, whatever that means to you, calm, all that kind of good stuff. Now, this is going to be in this timeline, right? In this incarnation, this life, because a lot of stuff was trying to come through that was future self or past even life self, right? Some kind of thing like that. And I want this to be from this lifetime, this path, this projected future. There was some things coming through that I wanted to share with you first, and that was, make sure that you are the things that you're worried about or stressed about or whatever you're feeling today are things that are happening in your reality, not things that could happen, right? There's no point worrying about things that aren't happening or that have already passed. That doesn't mean we can't just turn it off and on like a switch. However, identifying what is actually happening to or around me now will help you identify what is in your vicinity or in your sphere of influence, let's say. And if it's not in your sphere of influence and it's not actually happening to you now, then you can identify it and at least start to work through it and make sure it's you do the things and have good discipline, good boundaries, and good walls or whatever you want to call it for yourself, as well as for any kind of past or future projected idea of what could happen. Because if we worry about the future, we can catastrophize it, right? We can create it. Well, this could happen, then this will lead to this, and then this will lead to that. If it's not happening and you're stressed about that, then it's time to step away, maybe take a break from social media, take a break from the news, take a break from whatever that is. Okay, I just wanted to do that little talk. I'm gonna probably put a timestamp, so if you want to skip it, I probably should have said that at the start, but you can just fast forward to the card shuffle and and then jump straight to your reading if you already know what reading you would like or what number is right for you. I've got these cards today. This is the crystal mandala cards. I'm also still in a bit of a daze from that meditation because it was really nice, and I went longer than it was supposed to, but I felt like I needed it. And so if you're feeling like that now too, like everything around you is moving so quickly, you're a bit of a daze, this is a good time to take this message and get a nice grounding message from your future self, right? Okay, so let's see. Oh, okay, I feel like these two, I'm gonna take these three. Right, these will be the cards to pick your piles from today. We've got pile 1, 2, 3. So for pile 1, you have the angel Isda and the Carnelian with nourishment. For pile number, also the crystal card number 444, if that helps. For pile number 2, you have the Ascended Master Mary Magdalene and the Aqua Aura Quartz with Divine Alchemy. Okay. Crystal card number 333. And for pile number 3, you have the Archangel Gabriel and Turquoise with Safe to Be Seen. This is crystal card or crystal angel number 444. So these will be the 3 piles. Take your time, click into whichever one calls to you today. You can pick by whatever means, right? The crystal card numbers, the actual numbers on the cards, we've got 10, 24, and 11. The archangels or the ascended beings. And you can even choose by the words or the crystals that are on Carnelian or Aqua Aura Quartz and Turquoise. Down the description below, I'll leave the timestamp so you can just jump straight through to your reading. But I'll give you some time to check in with your intuition, see which one calls to you, and yeah, I'll see you in your reading. Hello, hello. Hello, pile number 1. So you've chosen the Angel Isda and the Carnelian with nourishment. Card 10444 is the crystal angel number. Okay, so this reading is about a message from your future self. Now this future self I was getting is like safe, secure, successful, right? Is like in a place where they feel more connected to their body, soul, to the earth, to their experience. So take this as a message with that in mind. Got a lot of cards today, lots and lots and lots of cards. So I'm just going to get into it and get some oracle cards for you. There was a huge amount of distraction when I was shuffling these cards with what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to the state of, the state I live in or the country I live in, right? Or what's going to happen to the world. There's like a lot of like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And that's what I was feeling before even starting the readings. Of a lot of people were worried about the future, right? And I mentioned that in the introduction. That's upside down. And so I just wanted to mention it because while it's all fair that we do get a lot of information coming through, it can be information overload. Information can be powerful, but it can also be distracting when it's too much. And if 90% of it is irrelevant to this moment in time or to like the near future or, you know, something that's just occurred, then do we need to absorb it and take it on? Is it true? Truth is going to be very important here. And that's why I feel like nourishment is coming through. Nourishment is the things that we actually need, right? We can self-soothe with a lot of different things in this world, whether it's food, whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, right? Whether it's like putting ourselves into work so we don't have to deal with stuff at home. You know, this kind of thing, there's a lot of different ways it looks. Sometimes to one person can look really positive and to others it can look really negative. But what do we feel like? How does it feel? We've got to be honest with ourselves first, right? If we want truth in the world, we've got to be truthful to us. So that's where this is coming from today. And that's the vibe of this. It's to fill yourself up with the things that are actually important. You know, if you're going on a diet, it's like making sure you're getting enough of the fruit, vegetables, proteins, nuts, you know, whatever, the fats, the things that we actually really need. As a basis, of course, it's nice to have like treats and stuff like that as well. That's not saying you shouldn't have that, but it's, you know, like making sure you've got the foundation set first before we look at anything else. So that's where I feel like your future self is really coming from. You've got Archangel Michael, another angel too. I mean, well, actually, this is obviously an angel. This deck is the Chibi angel cards. So you've got Michael with strength, highlighting Mercury, and the south is the what do you call it? Compass, the direction. It's facing south. Okay. I like this fiery energy coming through because this doesn't look like the Sword of Light. This feels like something else. It almost looks like Uriel's sword, like the flaming sword. But anyway, we'll have a look at what else comes through. You've got the Chosen and Floral Garland. This says on here, Ascension, Great Shifts, and Blessings. Ascension, Great Shifts, and Blessings. This looks like a huge transformation from whatever you're feeling now to where you're going to be. There's like an energy of being in power, and when I say in power, that doesn't mean lording power over someone else or being better than, right? That's not it. It's just like your energy is back with you, and that's more empowering than you having to try to be higher than anyone else, right? And that's kind of like a theme that we're seeing where people want to be perceived as really powerful rather than actually having stock and, I don't know, influence within themselves. They don't need the external validation. So that's what this is feeling like. That doesn't mean it's not a lot of pressure, right? There's a lot of beings, or like whether they're real or perceived, there's a lot of like pressure, especially if you're like spiritual, right? You could even feel sometimes pressure from your ancestors, which is pretty rough because they probably don't even feel like flooding you with any of that energy. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, right? But regardless, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your situation? There's a lot of shifts and changes. Some of you might even be waking up and you might have thought, well, I've already woken up. Well, maybe this is like a deeper kind of connection with self, or a deeper awakening that's coming through. Yeah, okay, let's continue. You've got the party card and as well, savor and celebrate. This could be talking about something coming up in the future where you get to enjoy and like the diversity, right? In this part of the game, this is when the trials, I guess, for Bobo is over. And he's got all his friends that he's met along the way on his little trip. And now they are, you know, they're all around and they're just celebrating. They're celebrating and talking and enjoying. So there does feel like this shift within yourself where you get to be more expressively you, more authentically you, more grounded in you. And it doesn't have to be like a big shift in your world, right? Like yeah, the next coming type thing doesn't have to happen. This is just like a change where your mindsets, where you were so focused over here at one point, now you're focused exactly where you know you need to be, and whatever you're working towards is nourishing, fulfilling, and provides not just like something super serious, it's also like enjoyment, right? There's joy here as well. You've got infinite potential and the manifestation vortex, stellar gateway activation. You're kind of being called here to do your spiritual practices. I don't know what that is. Could be meditation, could be going to church, could be praying, you know, whatever, I don't know, flavor you decide to subscribe to or taste, right, is up to you. But your higher self is, sorry, not your higher self, your future self. I guess it is kind of your higher self, right? Your higher self is there as well. So I guess it is a little bit of that. But your future self is talking about today, make sure you focus in on what's important. Make sure you're focusing in on the things that are going to be what you desire or feel called to, not via ego, but it's just the things that will, what do you actually want out of your life, right? What do you want um, to do or change or shift or like bring in, that kind of thing. Focus in on that. Don't focus in on the aspect that you don't have it. More like, what is it? That's what to focus on. You know, what does it look like? Is it this partner? Is it this like thing? You know, whatever that is, put that into your forefront. Not the fact that, well, I don't have that, I'm never going to have it, because that's not focusing on that. That's focusing on something else, right? Even though it's connected to it, it's just like, it's a feeling that you can't have it. There's nothing that you can't create and do in this lifetime. Now, is it going to, all things going to be super easy? No, but if it's worth doing, your higher self's like, go do it. Start putting that into your manifestation vortex. This is the time to dream about it, to the time to like play in the ocean of ideas. Okay. Ooh, okay. You've got memories of Atlantis with spiritual acceleration, progress, and technology. And that's exactly what this card is kind of like similar to, you know, ascension, great shifts, like big changes and blessings. You've got the spiritual acceleration, progress, and technology. There seems to be this idea in the spiritual community, I don't know if many are talking about it, but there's this idea of, you know, there was the idea back in the past of New Earth where that's kind of split. I feel like it's kind of already gone through this kind of shift. And now there's like multiple shifts, right? There's like, okay, we shifted here, now we shift, and this is on both sides. So maybe they join back up, maybe people can cross back over on that side. Who knows? But it does feel like there's going to be more changes, more that acceleration is like more shift, change, which can be overwhelming. That's why if big changes are coming, we don't want to be distracted by all this other rubbish, and then the big change happens and we weren't prepared for that, right? We want to not worry about it, but make sure that we're solid and good within ourselves and happy and peaceful within ourselves as best we can, so that when things change, we can adjust or look at it and take it in with truth rather than with speculation, drama, and like anything else. What I was going to say with the spiritual thing is like, it feels like there's this idea of splitting into a more technology based and a more like past kind of based. And this is just like one of many splits, right? But one's more focusing in on upgrading ourselves even with different technology. And maybe that's going to be in the same reality that this side is, and the other side is going back to community, bare feet on the ground, you know, supporting each other in in a way of like you know, people that have trade and that kind of thing, sharing ideas and like that kind of stuff, which we can kind of see with a mix with technology as well, with like Facebook, right? I can go on there and learn how to like properly paint a room or something like that. I don't have to hire people. I can, I can't. I don't have to go to university to get like some kind of thing or go do a trade thing, right? I can just get certain information online. So that's kind of how this is feeling. And the memories of Atlantis feels like you have come here before, like you have come here to experience this great change, right? In this timeline. You purposely chose this to come here. So I guess the future self is also kind of saying, if you're complaining a lot about not wanting to be here or this is the wrong timeline or anything like that, it's like, no, this is the accelerated timeline. This is the faster changes. There was like more of a slower path, which doesn't necessarily mean better, and faster doesn't necessarily mean good, but this is the path you've chosen, and this is a quicker kind of path to get to where, you know, we're all ultimately headed anyway. This is this little fruit here in this picture is like the monster's fruit. They're kind of like little monsters. And that's kind of touching in on this nourishment idea. Standing strong within ourselves, like the self node is to kind of slow down in a way, because if we can anchor ourselves within ourselves, basically, the transformations and changes, we can really reflect on and take in rather than so many changes we feel like we're just getting slapped in the face, right? So I feel like with these cards, with these first oracle cards, your future self is saying, know who you are and where you've come from, and take that as like your grounding for who you are and what you can do here in the now. And when I say what you can do, it doesn't mean you have to be anything other than you. You don't have to do anything other than what you're processing and going through now. This is just being comfortable and confident and stable within yourself, because the future is going to have so many more changes that are going to help you kind of like light a fire within you, and also have, I don't know, a completely different experience than what you're experiencing. This experience right now feels temporary. And in the past, it almost feels like you've had past lives where it's been like the experience has shifted from birth to death, but it's been very slow, or it's almost like you knew exactly kind of like where you're going to go. You found someone, you knew you were going to get married, you knew you were going to have children, you knew, you know, you were going to get older and pass. Like it was all very kind of played out. And it's like, well, if my parents were this, I was probably going to be that, right? Now we are jumping around all over the place. So it's harder to anchor it in, but it's such a vast more experience than past lives we've had, even in Atlantis, right? Even in old world kind of ideas, because from what I've kind of felt with their experience, they actually, it's always seen as like they failed, right? Or there's like this big failure and it didn't work out for the planet. It kind of feels like it did succeed in a way. Whatever was pumped in, worked through, that was a process, that was a learning, right? Even if we go do something outside in this world, in this lifetime, and we fail, so to speak, we still learn from it. It's better than sitting there and just not experiencing it. So it might have taken like many, many years and many lifetimes in certain worlds or certain like ideas of worlds, right? Like Atlantis. It doesn't mean that it was a failure, that was learning, there was growth. And I feel like they just want to bring that forward as well. If you're focusing in on past life stuff or worried about repeating old patterns, focus on what you want, not what you don't want to see. Okay. Let's see if they've got anything else they want to bring through. I feel like that's the main message for you, pile one. The King of Wands. Yeah, focus on you. This is kind of like King of Wands energy, right? Little Michael here with his little sword. I love this. I don't know the story of this one specifically, but the King of Wands I've always liked, because while upside down or reverse, you know, he can be a bit much, you know, upright, he is expressing himself freely and fully and vibrantly, right? It's like when someone's walking the street super confident, you can't help but look at them. Some people don't like doing that because they want you to be humble, right? Lowering yourself to, you know, not be the one that stands out is not being humble. That's being submissive, or being or like dousing your flame because the flames around you are little. I almost wanted to say fuck those flames, you know what I mean? But just like screw it, like be you. And that's what the King of Wands is to me about, is expressing themselves freely, confidently, without any worry about other people. And it's not so much disregarding them, it's just not taking whatever they need, their problem is on. Their problems are not your problems. You're not here, especially if you've got to pick this pile, you're not here to absorb other people's shit and ground it. You might have done that in the past, this isn't the time for that anymore. They have to deal with their own shit. They've had enough time and space to wake up, and if they haven't, then they haven't. It's time for you to focus on expressing yourself freely and fully. Ooh, okay. Spicy. Yeah, breaking those chains. You've got the 8 of Swords here. This is kind I can't remember the story exactly. I should probably read these a little bit more. But the story, I feel, is like this person was ousted from the township, and so they had to go live outside, and they kind of lived in a cave, and so they thought that no one liked them, you know, that kind of thing. No one understood them. Everyone was against them, that kind of mentality. And maybe that was true for some of the people, but it's like if you go read some comments, right? You can see a video that's had 1,000 views, one comment, and it's a shitty comment by a shitty person. Or by, maybe I shouldn't say shitty person, maybe by a complicated person, a complicated soul. And that person is the only comment that's seen, right? All these other people probably liked it and was fine. The content, whatever it's about, doesn't really matter right now in this example. But that can really skew the idea of what's happening in the world, right? There could be one person who's being a total nutcase in the world, but that doesn't mean that that represents all of humanity, right? If we picked myself or we picked like anyone else in the world to represent the whole planet, that's not going to be a true representation because it's just not quite like that. It's like if we go to Japan and meet one Japanese person and, you know, they're whatever, they're like rude or something or super nice or whatever, right? That's that person. That's not, they don't represent the whole country. They don't represent the whole world. Go to America. You know, you could get a variety of people there, right? In any country you would. So this is like break out of the fear of break out of the worry of like whatever's keeping you stuck, basically. That's what this is about. This perception of what you think people think or feel about you, or that you can't be you, is not what's in your future, so you don't have to like hold on to it longer than you need to. Your guides see it as like truth, but it's like here with this shadow right in the background, it's just an illusion. And here it's just an illusion. The Seven of Swords usually is like stealth or sneaky shit, right? Sneaky stuff in the background. But if you're focusing too heavily on what could be happening in the world, what you could be perceiving, then you start to see a monster when in reality it's another soul, right? Even people who are really horrible with certain words that they say or things that they do or mindsets that they think of, you know, in this day and age, getting likes and clicks and things like that is very up there. And so what do people do? More controversy, more arguments, more fighting, the more clicks you get, right? Not always. Some people get it by just being themselves. And then other people will kind of like move around it, and then that will give them their boost or whatever. It's not a great, it's a shitty way actually of kind of interacting with people, because it's not like it's teaching, it's people are taking it like that. I mean, I could make content about other readers, right, and say, oh, this person's reading wrong because of this, right, that and the other. I would never do that, and I don't feel like that. But, you know, that kind of thing, let's say I did it for like a really high, big creator, I don't know, whoever, it's like criticizing, that ends up becoming the personality and like what you're focusing in on, right? So I guess the whole thing with what this is coming through is you don't have to focus on anything that other people are projecting, don't have to identify with it, don't have to see it as like that's what's happening in the world. This is like small pockets of stuff that's happening, and it's not where the world's going, as told by your future self. I feel like in the future you start to see the illusion for what they are. Like, it's highlighted, right? If we look at the shadow, we can see this weird creepy thing, but if we look at what's actually there, it's a wolf or a coyote or something like that. So it's like an illusion. Okay, you've got the 10 of Wands. This feels like breaking chains for me. This feels like breaking chains. Releasing past stuff too, right? It's like long gone. The world is shifting in a way that I feel is more together. And you'd think, well, how does that work with what's happening now? We have to highlight people's true intentions and feelings. And if people feel like they have to hide, which is true with a lot of things, right? People feel like they have to hide their political views or something like that because they don't want to get judged or criticized, and yet they will and then we see like most people feeling like, oh, well, it looks like it's going to go this way, and then it goes another way, right? It goes a completely different way. That's the truth, because people aren't saying their true things. So let them speak their truth. Why is it? Is it like actually pure hate? Or is it some misinformation, miseducation, something like that? Because once it's in the light, we can really see it. And you're kind of being told here to let go. Most of your reading, I'm talking to like a lot of different points on this reading, but your reading here with this card for you just personally, it feels like it's a card of letting go of the past, or relinquishing stuff that's already finished, or not worrying about things that have already happened. You can't change what's happened right now, right? So you can't change of some of the past that's happened to you, some of the past things that have transpired to be where we are now. So don't pull too much of your focus onto it, is like how your future self is saying. I feel like you become a lot more unburdened as time goes on. You've got the Star card too. You've got this Hopes and Dreams card. I like the Star card. It's card number 17 in my date of birth. The day is 17. So I've always liked the Star card. It's also been my favorite regardless. It's like hope for the future, right? It's like seeing the light out there and focusing in on the light, not worrying about all the shadow and darkness that could be around you unless it's pertinent to this time. Right, and lastly, we've got the 8 of Coins. To be able to get to this point where your higher timeline future self is coming from, is it's going to take some work and some effort. It's going to take some agitation, maybe even some struggle, and that doesn't mean like real pain, physical pain, right? It could be just like needing to do the work, do the spiritual practice. I feel like whatever your high timeline future self is saying is like, do the spiritual work, do the practices, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation. You know, find what works for you. You don't have to follow anyone else. Some people will be like, do this, do that, and this will work, and this will work for you, and this has to work for you, and I'll make sure it works for you, right? They can't do shit. Like, you can listen to it, gain some knowledge, and then utilize it into your daily life. And if it's working, it's working. But give it like at least a few weeks, days, months, whatever, before you decide. If you try it once and don't like it and then move on, you haven't really given it like your attention, right? So, you know, and then find your way with that and how that works, of course. If it's not working and you tried it a few times and it's like you're getting 0, then maybe it isn't for you, right? But anywho, it's going to take some time and some effort. You've got mastery here, mastering your skills. I feel like there's some abilities and things like that that may come through to you, might start to, your intuition. I mean, I think people are just calling a lot of psychic abilities just intuition now. Your intuition will be like heightened and heightened and heightened. I've been listening to some older spiritual people and they're like, oh, I don't have this intuition. I don't have this, that, or the other. I'm like, yeah, you do. You do have it. You just don't believe you have it, so you don't have it. But they've found certain paths where it's like really, really perfect for them anyway. So it's almost like, well, do they need to? Maybe not, maybe so. It doesn't matter if they believe it. They're actually tuned in anyway. And that's fine, right? There's no right or wrong way to be of service to humanity, right? There's different charity. Like if we look at it from a physical perspective, there's different charities you could work with. If you're like, I really want to help the world, you could work in SPCA or like help animals. You could plant trees. You could donate money to causes that help, right? It doesn't mean like this one's better or that one's better or this thing's better. You know, it's just, I was going to say, I mean, you could say that certain charities are better than others, but I mean, without all the getting into the nitty gritty and this and that and reading the fine print, I want to pull it back to how you serve is how you serve, and what you do is what you do. So make sure it's like in alignment with what you feel is right for you and what you want to see in the future for yourself and this world as well. And then go to it and do the work. Because your future self is in this energy and a manifestation vortex where things are just getting created that they wanted to experience or feel, and as it comes through, they're playing with it, utilizing it, working with others, and moving on. But staying integral and having the integrity within themselves to complete these tasks, to do this thing, to live in wherever they are in the future. So it's really strong in that energy. I don't think there's really anything else. There's a lot of like little messages here and there. If you wanted me to break it down into what's the message from your future self, stay who you are and know who you are. Stay aligning with truth, but know truth within yourself and be truthful and honest with yourself. The future is like pure and whole within you, and that's where it needs to be. It's within you. It doesn't matter like how the future looks exactly from your future self's perspective. This is like the future is going to look how the future is going to look, but how do I move through it? How do I stay true and honest and whole within myself without getting caught up in the drama and the bullshit of being a human? I mean, if you figure that out and a perfect way to do that, let me know, because that's something that I feel everyone has, has opportunity to learn and grow in. But enjoy life as well. Take breaks, look after yourself. Stay like, making sure you're taking what is necessary and doing the things you need to that fills up your heart, mind, body, soul, but also, celebrate being part of this great shift as well, this great transformation that's occurring at this moment. If you see it through those lenses, I feel like you'll start to stay more stable and confident within self. So yeah, that's it. That's your reading. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Otherwise, I'm going to leave this here. Take care, look after yourself, be kind to yourself and each other, and I'll see you next time. Hello. Welcome to your reading pile number 2. First off the bat, I kept getting in my head like a message of you're an extraterrestrial, right? Or maybe you're some kind of light being who's come here and you're like super, I mean, I don't know what you're like as a human, but your higher self, I guess, is kind of like a very sentinel type character, I guess, or creature or being, which to me, how do I put this? It's like they're super strong and stable as a soul, but even now they're starting to get like a little bit concerned about where things are going. Now, that doesn't mean that things are going in a bad direction. I feel like as the human experience is going on, it's just like there's a lot of energy coming through and a lot of changes, right? So it's like when soldiers are standing still and they're really serious, right? And then one of them's kind of sweating. It's like there's a little bit of sweat happening. I don't know why that feels fine. It just feels like, oh my god, nice. That means you're like starting to feel more human, right? Your part of you is starting to like feel more connected because of some of the shake-ups that may be happening in your life, maybe happening in other people's lives, maybe it's just you're feeling into the collective. So there's kind of like this collective feeling with this reading. I know it's a message from your future self. Remember, this is like successful or stable or like free or whatever, whatever the highest timeline for your highest good and the highest good of all is kind of like focusing in on. So we're getting a message from that timeline. This multiple timelines doesn't mean whatever they say is going to happen, because this isn't like a prediction and telling you what the future looks like exactly. It's more like a feeling or a sense or a vibe. But you've chosen Ascended Master Mary Magdalene and Aqua Quartz, and the message on the card is Divine Alchemy. it's an interesting message, right? To me, divine alchemy kind of feels like the connection between masculine and feminine, yin and yang, or even here with it being Mary Magdalene, like Mary and Jesus type their story, which has kind of like been either whitewashed or like cut out, right? Or by patriarchy of like what's happened in the church and that kind of thing. So there's, take it with a grain of salt, of course, but that doesn't mean we can't have a story where these two people kind of like connect in some way, and bring messages out to the collective in a way that's supporting, right, and empowering, because that's what I feel like their message was to the people, was to be empowered, not to give powers away to ideas or people or one thing. It was to find it within yourself. But we're all, you can all believe in whatever floats your boat, of course, but never forget about empowerment. Okay. Oh yeah, whoop whoop whoop. All the piles are really getting into it. We've got Zadkiel here, which I love these like rainbow things popping around. We've got Jupiter highlighted as well, and this is enlightenment. So again, you know that you're going to be successful in this life. At a soul level, your soul knows, and even your future self can now see it. Wherever they're coming from, this could be way down the track in the future. That doesn't mean you have to struggle during the time, right? But it might be like they see so much more. This could even be like your future self that has passed, and can look back. It's that kind of energy. That's why I'm like, is this like extra true? I don't know. This is a very kind of like woo-woo reading. So if you're like, no, I want like, is my partner cheating on me or something, there's other readers out there that are going to touch on that and maybe can help you. This is going to be really touching into future and also your soul lineage, right? So let's keep going though. This card is so funny. This came out in the last reading as well. So pile 1. You've got the Chosen and the Flower Garland. This is Ascension, Great Shifts and Blessings, and we've already got Enlightenment, right? So you might be going through an awakening, you might be part of the group that are awakening others, and awakening others isn't so much telling them to believe what you believe. If you're doing that, stop. That's not exactly the path, right? This is really about living life freely and fully and understanding your connection with all things. You might be like a researcher, kind of like you might need, I don't know. Anyway, I was gonna go down. Let's just stick to this reading. This card didn't come through, but I did think of this card in the last reading. If you're drawn to pile 1 as well, there's a message there. I think this is probably going to be similar to it. So you may want to look at it, may not. But if you were drawn to it, you were drawn to it because you've chosen the Ascended Master out of 2 angels on the side, right? So it's just interesting. Also, I just wanted to touch on Zadkiel. I know I pulled this card and didn't talk to it, but Zadkiel to me is like a memory bank, right? It's like everything that could happen. That's why it felt like in the future, you'll see everything fully and cleanly because you'll be able to see different perspectives of your life and who you interacted with and that kind of thing. And also Zadkiel can help with past trauma and stuff like that as well. So it does feel like here it feels much softer than going through a lot of heavy shadow work, right? There might be some, but this is like gearing yourself up for a very higher opportunity, a higher timeline opportunity. You've got Nourishment with every monster's favorite fruit. Right, Nourishment was the key card of the first pile. Is it this one? Yeah. So you might be interested in it. I'm not trying to like push you to watch it. It's none of my business, right, what you do. But it's like, that's just keeps highlighting here. Every monster's favorite food. Making sure you are prepared for what's to come. But what's to come is like bigger than whatever you've got planned in your mind or whatever you think the world should be. It feels like bigger and better than that. Now, that doesn't mean it's like 100% perfect to your ideals, right? Or things like that, but it feels far more harmonious and more enlightened. So yeah, your future self is really it's interesting. It's like, you know, you have no idea what's to come. Ooh. You've got the Crown Chakra upgrade, Divine Connections, Holy Experiences, Miraculous Energy. It's funny because this one, while the main card wasn't an angel, it kind of does feel like that all these other cards are coming through with like higher angelic type beings. And angelic type beings doesn't have to be just angels, right? A lot of ascended higher beings and the ET kind of like vibe too. And even in the human vibe, right? There are a lot out there, or they have come and gone. So you don't have to be an angel to be a higher being. You don't have to be an ET to be a higher being. We're all working towards goals in this lifetime and all lifetimes that we will have throughout our soul's existence. But yeah, looks like future-wise, I mean, this is Elohim on the dove. So yeah, interesting. Wow, really nice. You got the Stargate, Heart Chakra opening, unlocking generosity. And now I get what the Enlightenment's really about. This kind of like awakening, and I think that's why it looked like your higher self was kind of sweating, is because when your heart chakra opens, and this is what they want you to focus on, is you're not so much opening your heart chakra, it's just more like connecting with your heart space. And that way, all decisions and even any actions you make, you know, will be in your highest alignment because you're doing it from the heart space. You're not doing it from the ego space. So if you just focus in on that, your reading could be just summed up in this card. If you focus in on the heart chakra, you're fine. You're good from where you're going from here forward to the future and beyond. Okay. However, overall, it's there's a lot of shifts and changes. You might even start to break down some of the walls that have been built up as well, and they feel like they just come down so easily because when you start hammering out a wall or doing a demolition, you know, a whole house can be broken down. I've seen it. My neighbors next door have been building a house for a while. They had a house there, and it was actually like 2 days, actually, to be real. In 2 days, pretty sure it was 1 day, but anyway, in 2 days they had the whole place flattened. They ripped out the house. They pulled out trees. Like, it was just done, and that feels like the speed. But once you start doing it, it's like you feel so good because it's like such old walls that were put up there. Yeah, and they're coming down. It's gonna be gone. It's gonna get gone. All right, let's take a look at some tarot for you. You've got the Four of Coins. It's interesting here because it feels very protective, right? And in the future, yes, you are protected. Now it may be time to also protect yourself, right? Ground yourself, stay centered within who you are. Especially if you are some being that you already figured out who you are. There's like this fear of being, I don't know, afraid to be yourself. You know, do it. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to take calculated risks, because if they're calculated, they're not really risks. But yeah, I don't know. That's going to be up to you, of course. I'm not going to tell you to do anything you don't want to do. We've got the Hierophant. Yeah, I don't know who you are, what you're like in this lifetime. It's interesting as well with the 4 and the 5. I don't know, it's just like steps. The Hierophant is like conformity in some cases as well. I'm just going to change the song. There we go. This one's called Eternal Light, which is quite interesting, especially with this like dove, which kind of represents the sometimes the Holy Spirit or the divine feminine, right? I've got the Hierophant. The Hierophant is like conformity, but it's also like boundaries and borders and following orders and things like that. It's not such a bad thing. I don't know, there's something with it. I need to see what's going to come out next to it. Whoa, okay, didn't mean to throw it. I think it's coming back to this card, right? Because it is on its left. And it's like certain, you're going to have a lot of new borders, and I feel like with the Chariot coming through, there is like this shift or change to it. Like this is very much in the desert or mountains or something like that. It kind of feels like there's like mist. I don't think it's water. It feels like mist and some plants and stuff. But like there's like these pikes or some kind of fish that are bringing in this person on the I don't know, I guess like a chariot, right? But it looks like on a boat. It's just interesting, these images, because it's like this feels very up high in the nest, like safety, security, and this feels like an activation of some sort. I feel like whatever happens from here to you're pretty much passing, which I don't know. Hopefully you are fine with that, like talking about that kind of thing, even though it's a little macabre, right? But we're all going to pass. It's not anything new that no one else is going to not experience, right? Everyone's going to experience it. It does feel like some walls or some shifts or some changes. It doesn't feel like it's going to be busted down through tower moments. Like you can make some shifts and changes and do some things that you want to do or experience through mindfulness, through practice, through like keeping on task, I guess, with whatever you're, I don't know, you feel like a weird little starseed or something like that. So maybe you want to do a meditation where you connect with your soul family and just maybe see what they're up to and or what they want to say to you, what message they have for you. Just do automatic writing or like lie down and just whatever, right? Whatever's coming through is true. So yeah, because there's going to be some shifts and some changes from your security net, I think. You've got the King of Coins. This feels really good for the future. Prosperity, abundance, right? That kind of thing. And abundance isn't so much about an excess of anything. It's having exactly what you need and doing exactly what feels true in your soul. And that's not because someone told you this is what's your soul's journey. This is because you know this is right and it feels right. So the Knight of Coins. Sorry, I thought it said King of Coins. The Knight of Coins is still about abundance, I guess, but it's more about the strategy and then planning, right? The planning and then going. And here we've got the going. So there is shifting. There's still this like idea of coins, which is slower. And I feel like you're probably like almost like a hermit, but you're not exactly hermiting, but you're like waiting to be activated in some way. And so I think you're going to get poked and activated. If you're new to this channel, this is your first reading, it kind of feels like you're a new awakey to something or a new awakey to an idea. Don't be afraid of that. If it feels right and it's like loving and supporting and empowering, then go with it. And even if you're an old kind of like hand at these kind of readings and stuff like that, something within you that's new might be activating soon, because your future self is talking about it and they like already know, right? You've got the Nine of Wands as well. It's an interesting one because you got the little Baba Yaga house in the background with this like chicken house thing. There's different ideas of Baba Yaga. Like she eats children, she's like friendly, she doesn't eat children, right? It's a lot of weird stuff. From what I felt from her energy, I don't feel like she is as negative as a being as like maybe the worst is kind of portrayed, but I don't think she's like a being that you would kind of, it's kind of like a weird auntie that you don't mind visiting sometimes but you wouldn't want to live with, right? She's a little bit wacky but there's a lot going on. It's kind of like that. But anyway, you got the Nine of Wands. I don't know why that came through, but you got the Nine of Wands, and the Nine of Wands is traditionally about pushing forward, keep going. You're almost at the end of the line. So it does feel like you're very close to finishing or completing a task or completing something here. Your higher self is just like, keep going. Or like, sorry, not your higher self, your future self. Ooh, this card wants to come through. It's got the Two of Swords. It's interesting that that one's finishing up. Because there's like, you know, there's a lot of slow energy within these cards. But there's purpose and reason for it, right? You don't want to activate yourself too early and get to the party before the party started. In a way, and you also don't want to do it too late. Your future self is saying, don't worry about it, you're going to be activated, or you're going to know a certain task or a thing to do or path to take when the time is correct for you. And it'll be obvious. But that does mean that because the pathway opens up, you're going to have a choice whether you walk down it or not. This could be a tricky one for you, Pal 2, because your future isn't always set. Like anyone's is not really set, right? But even if you chose like the lower path here, it's still going to be a positive and higher path. It's just like there's one where you might have to really push yourself, right, to go. This pile does feel like a lot slower than the first pile, in the sense of you're not getting bombarded so much with stuff. I feel like you're already ahead of the game, you could say. Not that any place is good or bad, right? It's just like you're kind of ahead of the game and then things are catching up, and that's when you have to start walking and running again to kind of maintain progress. And I think it's so you don't get too comfortable in being ahead and just waiting. you've sped up and then you're waiting, and I think people are starting to catch up. So it's time, or souls, or like the earth, or whatever is kind of like catching up. So very woo, you know, whatever you want to call it, reading. If I have to sum this up, your energy here is to connect. You might even want to connect with your future self and just see what that is for you, because I'm getting like a very higher view of it. And I mean higher, just being more you know, about like the whole area rather than the specific thing. So it's kind of like seeing the forest rather than focusing on the tree. And sometimes you want to focus in on the tree because that's important right now. But at least this gives you an overview of what's happening. I feel like sitting in your higher heart chakra, and making decisions and choices from the heart space, not from the ego. Even if people are pissing you off, you know, don't get dragged into their shittiness. That's not where you need to be, right? You don't have to be down in that little horrible place. Everything is looking really good. You might be just bumped out of your comfort zone a few times, and that's okay. It's not such a bad thing. It is actually probably going to be helpful. But once you start walking, you'll find that jogging and running comes second hand with everything else that's coming through. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting reading. I don't know what your soul fam's up to. You might want to connect with them, but otherwise I'm going to leave that there. It kind of feels like it's a to be continued reading, but you're the one that continues it, not here, right? This is you. This is your path. So yeah, interesting reading. Very pleased. Future self as well, which is cool. It feels like you complete the task that you set out to do in this lifetime. You may have completed a whole bunch of them already, so well done to you. I'm going to leave that there. Take care of yourself, look after yourself, be kind, and I'll see you next time. Hello, welcome to your reading pile number 3. Okay, so a message from your future self. Remember, this is the successful self, the empowered self, the calm self, the safe self, the future of where you're going in this timeline. So I take the future self as being the one in the highest timeline, and so how to get onto that, it may touch on that, but it also may just talk about, you know, empowering yourself, because that seems to be the theme today. But you've chosen Archangel Gabriel and Turquoise with Safe to Be Seen. Now, when I was shuffling the tarot cards here, one of the cards that flipped up was the Three of Swords, and I was getting like a relationship kind of like energy. So this could be the pile where you have either in your mind said you've given up on love but haven't actually given up on love, right? Or there's some kind of like playing in your mind around love, relationship, or friendship, or something like that, around connection. And it's interesting because Gabriel isn't necessarily about love and connection. You know, sometimes in the biblical kind of sense, they talk to him about being a messenger because he was the one that supposedly came and said, "Hey, Mary, you're going to have a kid," right? And so that could be how it is. But I kind of see Gabriel, because we see Gabriel sometimes as masculine or feminine, as being a variety of things. It's kind of like what are those people called? If you're a movie star, you have an agent, right? It's kind of like an agent to you who helps you sell yourself. Like if you're like, oh yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, and they'll be like, they're amazing at this, and they do so much for this, that, and the other, right? You know, they kind of like sell it. So it sounds kind of silly talking about an angel like that, but we're in 2025, right? They're going to evolve as well. They're not going to speak to us or connect with us like we were, I don't know, walking around in sandals and stuff, right? We jump on planes these days. So you have Archangel Gabriel, Turquoise, safe to be seen, safe to be you, safe to be you. You got to believe that though. If you don't feel safe and you don't believe you're safe, then you're going to create that reality. So don't do anything that's going to put yourself in danger as well. All right, but let's have a look at what your future self is saying. Oh, you've got Raz, Christ's love. Oh, look at this biblical stuff coming through. You've also got the highlight on Neptune. I love that he's holding this key with like the crosses here, which kind of feel like a particular denomination of Christianity, but I can't remember. And it's got the Star of David on the, I don't know, what would you call that? The handle bit of the key, the turny bit. Very cute, Christ love. This is talking about Christ consciousness in my mind. It's not like the idea in the biblical sense of like you have to follow a particular religion or anything like that. That's not what this is. When I first heard of Christ consciousness, I was like, oh, is this a religious thing? Sometimes that's fine, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's not always for me anyway, personally. But when I like more got into the idea of Christ consciousness and what it's about, it's just like the source of energy, right? It's the understanding that there's an idea of like shifting from here to here in a way, going from wherever you're at into a more enlightened state. And that's where your future self is coming from, is like, we make it through this part and the challenging stuff, and we actually we get into a much better, I feel like your dreams are going to come true in this lifetime in a way. If you like align with that higher future self path, because remember there's multiple paths that we can go through in this life. And so if we're living in love and care and like making decisions from the heart space, we get into the higher timeline. If we're making decisions of ego or fear or worry or getting sucked into like things like the news or stories or drama, then we end up like focusing in on that, and that becomes our reality, right? So be very conscious of what you're feeling and be very honest with how you're feeling with yourself, especially. Yeah, this is gonna be a task, right? You've got the Chaos Seeker and the Mask. And the Chaos Seeker and the Mask is not necessarily he's looking for chaos. It's just like it seems to keep showing up for him. And as he starts to take off the mask, he seems to figure out what he's been following, the calling. He's no longer looking through a lens of like, well, this is the right way of living, so I'm just going to focus on that. He starts to take off the mask and really look, not worry about what he fears, making decision of fears. Like if you fear, you know, if we go back to a religious sense, not that I'm trying to bash any religion, but you know, this is just like reality, right? We have religions in this world. Some of them might be talking to like, if you do this, you go to hell, right? And some of them burn for eternity. It's kind of like a very fearful way of making decisions. So it's like, oh, I won't do that because I fear this. That's not choosing from love, right? That's choosing from fear. That's the ego. That's the ego way of just making decisions. And I feel like they just want to highlight that. Get really in touch with how you feel about certain things, and are you making choices and decisions of fear? If people were saying like, you know, make sure you've got enough food for a week or something or like that, and you fear for that, and you'd be like, oh my god, people are going to try to sell out the store, so you end up buying so much that you fill up like a whole bunker, right? It's not about that. It's just making sure you've got enough to survive. If you know like a weather event's coming through, you know, you want to make sure you've got everything covered. Okay, I don't know what card. Okay, there we go. There was one card that like bumped and then it disappeared, and I was like, what? Okay, but this one wants to come through. Don't be silly. Kind of like what I was saying, right? Don't make decisions off, I don't want to say silly things, but don't make decisions off things that aren't there. I think I talked about that at the start of the reading, making decisions or basing things off things that aren't happening. This is also like, don't get so far, don't break things down too much. This is like, in my mind, this is Bobo's story in this game where he starts to go into his subconscious, and his subconscious is kind of like split, kind of like, I can't remember that. Oh, Inside Out. Is that what it's called? I can't remember the show. You know, with that cartoon where there's like anger and sadness and joy and all that. So he kind of breaks it down and starts having conversations with little bits and pieces of them. I think that's fine sometimes, but if we get too caught up into the nitty gritty, we're missing the bigger picture. And if we're looking at the bigger picture too much, we're not focusing on the ground stuff or the people that are in the reality, right? So this is kind of just like, make sure you're not getting too caught up in certain things that are pulling your energy away from you. Because you're already valuable or worthy of everything in your life. So whether that's like finding a romantic love, finding things, and this is in the physical world too. It doesn't have to be just spiritual, right? This is like finding things in the physical world that you want to experience. All that kind of stuff. Focus in on what that looks like for you and how that would look like to you, and be open to however it plays out and however it may come, because it will come to you. Okay. Whoop whoop. We've got the Soul Star activation. So this is kind of like the Soul Star chakra, which is outside of our body, above our head. You know, if you follow like chakra stuff. Anyway, it talks about fulfilling soul contracts, remembering who you are. That's exactly what the Christ love is touching on. Remembering who you are at a soul level. Remembering who you are. And knowing who you are. It is good to like check in with yourself in parts, and then also remember that you're a whole body, but also a whole soul with a whole lineage of lives and soul family and guides and all that stuff. You're all part of like one thing, right? You're growing and working together cohesively. Oh, you got the Holy Grail. Inner discovery, finding sacredness. You are what you seek. This is double downing on you, right? This is like the internal. This is the internal. This is like the soul. It's like, it's you. It's all part of you. Everything is you. So live freely, live authentically, be what you want to seek, or what you want to find. Because there's nothing outside of yourself that's going to make you, right? Or highlight you. There might be people that like you come across in the world that kind of leave hints to it, but it's not like they're the ones that are installing it within you. They're just highlighting it or shining a light on shadow on your light, your shadow on your whatever, anything else in between. Okay, so future self, what else? Yeah, I mean, this is getting a bit much, but like you've got the Queen of Wands. She is not worried about what other people are thinking outside of herself. This is oh, I can't remember her name. Pele, yeah, Pele. It's funny, I used to actually I used to work with a Pele. She was from, I don't think she was from Samoa, but she was no, actually I think she was from Samoa. She wasn't from Hawaii, I was gonna say. From Samoa. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands is loving yourself without the need for external love, and you'll find that if you are looking for external love, it's found within, and the external starts to showcase that, and someone comes through. It's like, you know, when people are like, you know what, I'm not going to bother looking for love, and then someone shows up. It's because they're accepted who they are. They haven't accepted their fate and just given up. They're like, actually, I'm quite happy with who I am now, and I'm quite happy with how things are going. I don't need any external validation, so I'm just going to go with me, right? I'm going to do me. And that's self-love. And then, lo and behold, people show up. Ooh, you've got the Four of Wands. Yeah, your future is coupled if you're looking for that. If you're like, I don't want that, you're not going to be forced and dragged in unless you're like, I don't know, arranged marriage or something off. But like, you know, you're going to get there. You're going to succeed in what you're looking for. It's hard sometimes when we don't know the right path, but we can't explore a path if we don't start walking down it and trust ourselves to be able to deal with whatever's to come. Oh, yeah. You're gonna get it. You've got the Nine of Coins as well. Someone who has worked their ass off, got to a point where they can now enjoy the fruits of their labor. Well done, honestly, well done. Whether you're in a relationship or not, or you're looking for one or not, it's a good future. It's a good future. I'm actually really excited about it. Oh my, okay, 10 of Cups. Very nice. I think that's why when I was shuffling your cards, the Three of Swords came out, because it's like a lot of heartbreak and broken feeling, right, in the past. But it shows that just because we go through heartache and challenge once doesn't mean we constantly cycle and repeat it. And where does that come from? It's not really given to us from the external. It's really found within. We go through this inner discovery, remember who we are, and that we're worthy of love and care and support, and then we find it. Ooh-doo-doo-doo-doo. Ooh, okay. Little Miss Jumper coming through. Strength. Inner strength, right. This one here feels like a little bit more aggressive maybe than the traditional strength card. Traditional is like they're no longer like fearful or fighting their perceived weaknesses. They know who they are within themselves, but you can kind of see here that there is this kind of like domination aspect on top of as well. You've kind of grabbed life by the balls, so to speak, or by whatever you want to grab, and you're moving forward with new formed passion in the future. This is talking about your future more than some of the other piles, so it's interesting. Like from the beginning, I think I said it does look like you're going to succeed in whatever you're doing, like it's already destined, so to speak. How you get there is how you get there, but there's so much abundance here with all these cards coming through. Okay, let's have a look. So, Ace of Wands. Really nice cards coming through, right? There's a lot of positive energy here. I remember someone saying Ace of Wands they see sometimes as pregnancy. You know, if that's what you're looking for, that's in your hands. It's not in a reader's hands or someone else's hands. It's in yours. It's not even in your future partner's hands necessarily, right? It's in your hands. And here she is painting her own sun. She's painting her own moon. She's painting her own future. She's not letting the stars just arrange themselves willy-nilly. Like, she's reaching up and grabbing the stars and putting them in a way that align to what she wants. I feel like that's exactly your goal here. And maybe that is your future as well. Getting into a point where things feel more truer and easier because you trust and believe in self. And so I don't know exactly what they're saying overall, but the future is bright, right? The future has a lot of benefit and gifts and joy. You've got kind of like the Little Mermaid looking thing going on here. I don't think that's the actual story, but I don't know. It looks like it. Cause it kind of reminds me of Triton and, you know, Ariel's sisters, but I don't know. They're very opaque people. If you got the strength card, overcoming fears, no longer seeing yourself as weak or strong. It's just like you don't have to be anything because you already are who you are. Like Pele is the volcano goddess, right? If she was perceived as a volcano herself, she is just who she is. She's not negative or positive, right? She is bringing up information and nourishment and nutrients from the earth and letting it flow out over her borders or over her body, you could say. And while it can be destructive at times and destroy certain things, it also applies a whole lot of rich nutrients and knowledge from the inner earth into the world. So she just is who she is. And when she accepts it, instead of worrying about what do the little humans think of me, right? Or what does the sky think of me, or what does the ocean think of me? She knows her purpose and her path, and she's just letting, when it needs to come through and flow out, she's letting it flow out. It's not out of anger, it's out of what feels right to her. She's trusting in herself. So I feel like that's your main message. Remember who you are. Fulfilling soul contracts, you're going to fulfill it. You're going to get it done anyway. So do you take the high road, or do you take the low road? Doesn't matter. You're going to be successful anyway, but you may as well go through it with love, support, and trust in yourself. So I hope this really does help you. It's a beautiful reading, really. Don't take yourself so seriously here as well. You know, have some fun with this. This life is wacky and crazy and fun and sad and all sorts of different feelings. So make sure you are also enjoying this path as well, because you're destined, like, is how your future self is coming through to gain and enjoy, especially if you're looking for relationships. I just feel it. I know not necessarily the cards are saying that, but that's just how it's coming through. So maybe it's just one or two of you who are like, I'll never find it, but I want it. But I don't want to admit that I want it. But, you know, whatever you're going through, whatever your mind's juggling in your head. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. Raziel can go back to his library. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.